Hi. Just want to start off by saying thank you for visiting bdcatfishkillers.com. My name is Levi.
And I'm Tyson, and we are
Big Daddy Catfish Killers LLC. Today we're going to show you good quality equipment for starting your tackle box.
That works.
Now the first thing that we're going to cover in today's segment is going to be fishing poles.
And just to make things easy, we're going to go from the smallest to the largest poles you may encounter. And first up, we have the ice fishing pole. This pole is very small and compact, and it's usually used in winter, and it makes it easy to get to those hard to reach places.
Next up is going to be our light rod. Now, keep in mind, don't pay attention to the reels. We're going to go ahead and do another segment on reels later. But for now, we're just going to be concentrating on the rods for now. This is a light rod. The reason they call it a light rod as opposed to a medium or a heavy rod is its responsiveness. And what I mean by responsiveness is how much the pole flexes when it gets a bite or a nibble from a fish. Now, these light poles, they are going to be very good for like your crappie, your sunfish, or your bluegills, any kind of small panfish. That's going to be perfect for catching those little guys.
Okay, next up we have the medium rod. And this rod, it takes a little bit more force from the fish to bend and to let you know that there's a fish on the line. This pole is generally used for any type of bass, rock, stripers, and walleyes. And it's a very good pole if you're crankbaits and things of that nature.
Excellent. And our last rod we are going to show you here, if I can get it out. This is a big boy here. This is going to be our heavy rod. Now, this is going to be really good for your northern pike, your muskie, your like really large, generally deeper water fish. But they are also really good for catfish if you can go any lakes or rivers. I mean, this is going to be perfect for pulling out those big daddy catfish.
Now that you got your fishing rod picked out, it's time to pick a line. Each rod has a recommended poundage and yardage that the rod holds. It's either printed on the rod just right where the reel attaches, or it's on the reel itself. The open-faced reels, it's usually on the spindle. It attaches very easily, and if your rod that you buy from the store comes without line, it's easy to restring. We're going to do another video on it later. Then there's two different types of lines to choose from. There's a nylon line, which is kind of like a plastic clear line, or there's a braided line that comes in all different colors. You got the bright neons to the greens to fluorescent colors, pink even. They come like a rope does. They're all like three to six strands, and they're all twisted and braided together. For my smaller fish, for my light rods, I like to use the nylon line. This is better for your crankbaits, your cast and reel setups. But for my catfish and my heavy rods, I like to use the braided line. This is much easier to set up my rigs for bottom fishing, and I find out that the braided lines don't stretch as much with those bigger fish. The nylon line seems to stretch and gets brittle when you get those bigger fish on the line. And as far as your pound test, you'll want maybe like a 5 to a 10 pound test for your panfish. And then for your medium rods, I usually use about 10 to 20 pound test line for those. And then for my heavy rods, you can use from 20, there's up to over 100 pound test. But I usually use from 60 to 80 pound test. Depends on the situation that I'm fishing, whether it's a lake or a river.
Alright, we got your rod picked out, we've got your line picked out. Now, what are we going to fish with? Well, you have a couple different options there. The first option I want to start showing you is tackle. There's a slew of all different kinds of tackle out there, all different sizes, shapes, colors. One of my more favorite lures to fish with is going to be a spoonbill or a diver. Now, the way you're going to be able to tell these is, obviously, they have a large spoonbill, and that is to, as you reel it, it's going to go down underneath the water and pretty much stay at just about one certain level as long as you reel at a regulatory pace. Now, these I find these are really good because they have a really good back and forth action. It really calls the fish in, and they can actually hear these little things jingling around, so that the sound actually attracts them as well. Now, we also have rubbers or plastic lures. Now, this is an example of one. This is going to be for like a bluegill or a crappie. It's got a little curved tail on it, which also has very good action underneath the water. Really good for attracting bluegill, crappie, or sunfish. Now, this is going to be a little bit more for like bass. It's more of a night crawler look to it. It's also got the hook on the end, so it also has really good action in the water as well. Now, the next thing I'm going to cover is going to be live bait. We have worms, red worms, night crawlers, wax worms, all different kinds of smaller live bait you can use. There's also crawdads or minnows you can pick up. I'm sure you can catch frogs from time to time, or smaller fish that you catch. Let's say you've got a small reel and you've got a larger reel. You catch a smaller fish on your small reel. You don't want to throw them back. You want to use them for bait for your heavy pole. Go ahead, hook them on there. Put a bobber on, throw them out, see what you get. Now, the next one I'm going to cover is going to be cut bait. Cut bait's a little bit like live bait, only we're not going to be using the whole thing. It's going to be more of like the name states. We're going to be cutting it up, using different pieces of it. Now, one thing that I really love to use is liver. Chicken liver, not beef liver. Beef liver doesn't work as well in my case, but cut up a little bit of that, put it on your hook, see what you get. Also, you can do shad if you like. You catch a shad, cut it up, use different pieces. Some people like to use the head, some people like to use the tail, some people just like to try to string the guts on there. Whatever you can do. Basically, cut bait is going to be meat for like more predatory fish, as well as catfish. Catfish really love cut bait. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is going to be mixed baits. That's going to be your tube baits, stink baits, dough baits. If you'd like to check on bdcatfishkillers.com, we have at least one bait out, and hopefully more to come soon. Also, there is scent bait. Basically, what that's for is you can use it on cut bait, live bait, or your tackle. You just spray it right on there, whatever you're using, throw it out there, and see what you get.
Depending on what kind of fishing you're doing, you might need some bobbers or other alarming devices. Right here we have a little cowbell. We use it a lot for catfishing. We just clip it right on the end of the pole, and when a fish bites, it starts ringing, and you'll know when you get some bites. Some other options are some bobbers. You have your traditional, red and white bobber, or you have wooden bobbers. They got a little spring that just clips right on the string. And we also have these green and black night bobbers. They actually capture some of the moonlight and make it light up a little bit so you can see it at night. And some other things you can go into versus sizes. It depends on what you're fishing for. The smaller panfish, you'll need a smaller bobber. And if you can also bobber fish for catfish with those dough baits, or hang them like 3 to 4 feet maybe under the water. You'll obviously need a bigger bobber. And to get some weight to get your line actually out into the water, you'll probably need some weights. There's pinch weights, slip sinkers, there's dumbbell weights, and there's these actually spoonbill weights that are actually a little harder to get snagged. There again, depends on what you're fishing for. The panfish, I usually use a couple bullet or pinch weights underneath the bobber, that give it a little bit of weight so you can actually cast it out into the water. And as far as the catfishing, I like to use those spoonbills or some they're little ball weights that have a eyelet that go down through the center of it that you can tie onto for bottom fishing.
In addition to bobbers and sinkers, after you've caught your fish, you're going to need some way to hold it. Got to try to keep it fresh until you can take it home. If you are in fact going to be taking it home, a lot of people are catch and release. But if you are going to try to hold on to them after you catch them, you're going to need a way to keep them fresh until you take them home so you can get them filleted up. One thing you can do is pretty common with me and my friends is using a stringer. It's just basically a length of rope. One end is sharp, like so, and the other end's got a little eyelet in there. Now what you're going to do is basically you're going to get your fish, take it right through his, probably his bottom lip, if it will hold, and you're going to take this end, put it right through his bottom lip, take this, feed it right through, and then that's going to be like your stop right at the end. So he's not going to be able to go anywhere, and then when you get another fish, you tie this up on the shore, and then when you get another fish, you just go ahead, pop another one on there, slide it all the way down, toss them in the water. They stay nice and cool, and they stay good and fresh. Also, you can use a bucket. However, if you use a bucket and you catch larger fish or many fish, like a 5-gallon bucket or so, it's going to be hard to keep them alive and fresh for a long time. So you're going to want to make sure that if you do use a bucket, it's going to be on a shorter fishing trip as opposed to like an all-day fishing trip or anything like out on a boat. It's going to be taking a while. Also, after you catch your fish, you're going to want to make sure you might have a couple extras, a couple extra things that you want to take out fishing with you, just so, heaven forbid, you have a nasty time out there. One thing you're going to want to bring with you is bug spray. It's always helped me out in the past. There's nothing like being out there midnight with just gnats and mosquitoes and everything attacking you. So on those warmer summer nights, you're definitely going to want some bug spray with you, or else, trust me, you will be sorry. Also, if you're going to be like us and fishing for catfish, we go out a lot at night. So you're going to want to have some sort of flashlight or headlamp. I would prefer a headlamp. Flashlights are good too, but you don't always have one of your two hands free. So keep that in mind. They're pretty inexpensive. Go out and pick yourself up one. Also, you're going to want to take a chair. You're going to be out there for, if you're hardcore like us, we stay out there 5-6 hours sometimes, middle of the night, all the way till we see the sun coming up. So in order to be comfy, definitely take yourself out a chair, and if you get bored, you might want to go ahead and bring a radio with you. A lot of people say that noise scares away fish. I've seen plenty of things that go totally toward the opposite of that. So I am not a firm believer in be quiet, you're going to scare the fish.
Some things that I bring along are a towel. I have a towel that clips to my belt loop. When I get my hands dirty, you know, taking off the fish or put my bait on the line, I can just wipe off my hands and I'm good to go. Some beverages and some snacks. You are going to be out there for quite a long time normally, so you need something to tide you over until you can get home. Skin protection if you're going out during the day. You don't want to get that sunburn. And toilet paper. I don't know how many times we've gotten out there. And
that's a must.
That's a must. You need toilet paper in your tackle box. And a first aid kit. We've gone out a couple times and Matt's gotten hooked by taking my fish off the line. But things happen, and especially when you got kids, you know, running around. So definitely bring a first aid kit, some, you know, antibacterial, some Band-Aids and things of that nature.
I just want to say thanks for joining us today, and keep your eyes open for more videos. In the meantime,
check out our website, bdcatfishkillers.com, and until next time, remember,
keep your pole in the water and keep your fish on the line.